everyone, welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. Today we're gonna do a quick fun project, and it's something you might have seen on the channel before, but this is the smaller size so it counts as a different tutorial. Today we're gonna be doing the Pocket Pal, and this comes to us from Linds Handmade. Okay, so this is the Pocket Pal. It might look very similar to the Purse Pal, which is just a little bit longer version, because it is a smaller version of the Purse Pal. But listen, we're gonna do one little tweak on it today, okay? We're gonna make this really fun. I've had this as something I wanted to do for a while, so we're gonna do it today. This is the Pocket Pal. Let me get close. This is a cute little wallet. You can see we have this fun flap here. I do encourage you to use an embroidered tab if you have access to one. We have a little snap, and then we have how many card slot pockets we have? 1, 2, 3. 3 card slot pockets, just a few. We have this adorable zipper on the side, and then we're gonna add something to the back that I've wanted to add to this for a while. On the back, you can't quite tell because my vinyl, although clear, also has a print, we have a clear pocket. A little clear pocket, I love that. And then I also went ahead and added a fun little key ring on the top. So this way I can like clip it in my bag. I can clip it onto my bag. So for example, one place I would use this, we like to go to Universal Studios. At Universal Studios, you have a card or you have like a piece of paper, and you don't have like a magic band like you would at Disney, you know? So you have to keep that on you when you're going from park to park, or you're doing fast pass, or whatever it's called, express pass, things like that. I don't know all the lingo, I apologize. But you have to have something like that on you, and this is fun because I don't love wearing lanyards, but I can take this and I can actually just snap it onto my backpack, onto my crossbody bag. It can hang there. Everything I need is right there. Yes, this would not be great if you're in an area where there's pickpocketing. Like don't have this hanging on the back of your backpack with all of your important credit cards and IDs and stuff like that. You know what I mean. This is fun. You can also clip it on the inside of your purse. So if you just need to quickly access a small wallet, I don't know. I can think of a million things. I love this design. This is actually a pretty popular design I've seen elsewhere on the internet in major retailers. So we're going to do our own spin on it today. And it's quick and it's fun. So this is a 90% vinyl pattern, vinyl cork, some sort of material that doesn't fray. So the exterior really needs to be like that. And then you don't have to use an embroidered flap here. The pattern does come with a template for you to create a rectangular flap. You know me, I love these things so much. They're so fun. And then on the back here, we're also gonna use a piece of vinyl for the outline, and then a piece of clear vinyl for the little ID pocket, a zipper, and then for the lining of the zip pocket, and also for the lining of the card slot pockets, I am using waterproof canvas, but I'm using a very, very lightweight waterproof canvas. There are so many waterproof, water-resistant canvases out there nowadays, which is amazing, and there's so many different weights. Now, I don't know what the numerical value of the weight is, but I will have links for the ones I'm using down below. They are very lightweight. They're perfect for this project. They don't add a ton of bulk. It's just perfect. Perfect material. So this is a pattern I actually like so much that I did buy the acrylic templates. Now, these acrylic templates come from, where do they come from? Oh, I don't remember. I'll have a link down below, but you can buy these acrylic templates. They're clear, but they already have all of the stuff cut out on it, so all you have to do is plop it on your fabric. And it's really nice because since they're clear, you can get a good idea of the print on your fabric, and so you can cut it out appropriately. And then I was so excited about my clear pocket that I put on the back. I actually made my own acrylic templates for that. So these are just like 2 different styles, and it just makes it easier for me to quickly cut it out. So if you guys are interested in something like this, these ID pocket templates are things we can use on a lot of different projects. Once I show you how to do it today, you can just stick it on everything. But I can give you the information for that, and if we want some clear templates, we can add those as well. So as always, thank you so much to Linds for allowing me to use your patterns in my videos. Linds is the bag making genius. I'm telling you, that girl, she gets an idea in her head. If you don't follow her on Instagram and social media, you need to make sure you're following her, because you will see how the whole process works. She gets an idea in her head. She's like, oh, there's no way this will ever work. And then it's like, it's going to work. And not only does she make the impossible possible, she then shares with everybody how to do it. So she has her own YouTube channel. She has tutorials for all of her patterns over there, but she also has a ton of really incredible information over on her Instagram and Facebook. So make sure you go follow her. I'll have all her information down below. If you like using clear vinyl on bags that there's no way you can use clear vinyl on that bag, you're gonna want to go follow her, because she's gonna prove you wrong, and then you're gonna have a lot of projects on your list. I'm just saying. So if you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, shout-outs, anything at all, leave them down in the comment section. This is going to be a pretty quick tutorial. I'm not going to be edge coating today. If you want to watch the Pocket Pal video, we do go over edge coating a little bit more over there. Edge coating is a great way to finish off raw edges of vinyl. However, you don't need to do it. If you don't want to add that step, it's not like, oh, I don't edge coat, so I can't make this. Yes, you can. It's still going to look amazing. It's going to look professional. You're going to love it. So we're not going to edge coat today, but edge coating, I mean, if you want it to look very, very super professional and you want to up that price tag of an item you're going to sell, add the edge coating. All right, guys, let's get started. So here's most of the stuff we're going to be using today. First, you're going to need a piece of vinyl cork, some sort of non-fraying, preferably more heavy-duty material for the exterior of your Pocket Pal. And then if you're doing the card slot, the ID pocket, you're gonna need a piece of clear vinyl. Now this is not completely clear because I do want you to be able to see it when I'm working on it today. And then another piece that will be a little bit bigger. I'll give you the measurements for this down in the description of the video if you're interested. So I'm gonna give you the measurements for how big this should be, the outer piece, how big the clear piece should be, and how inside should be. If you guys are interested in a template for that, let me know. Like I said, I can put some acrylic templates in the shop, or we can just do a paper template. Let me know. And then you're gonna need a short zipper. This is like a 4-inch zipper. I think mine's more like 6 inches. I like it to be a little bit longer and then I trim it down. So just make sure you have a zipper. It's a number 5 zipper. The coils look like they're metal, but they're not. They are plastic, so I can sew over them. And then I have waterproof canvas. So honestly, I would suggest more like a ½ yard of waterproof canvas because you can't really buy it in increments smaller than that anyways. But you're gonna need some waterproof canvas. This is very, very lightweight waterproof canvas. This is from Wonderground Fabrics. I have a link down below, but if you're gonna use waterproof canvas, use the really lightweight one. Next, I have this little tab here. We sell these in our shop. If you have an embroidery machine, go check out Creations by Connie. She has so many designs for these. They're really cool. If you don't, there are a lot of shops though that will sell these little pre-made tabs. So we're gonna use that for the little closure over the pockets. And then a bag tag as always. And we're gonna change this up just a little bit. Like I said, we're adding this to that. And we're gonna change up the placement of the strap as well, since my strap is longer than what the pattern suggests. So here's a bunch of the other stuff. I will be using my Cam Snap rivet press today. I'm not using rivets, but I am gonna be using it for the little snaps. So you're gonna have one little snap that connects the tab to the base, you know, folds over, it snaps down. You could use a plastic Cam Snap there. You can use a magnetic snap. Maybe not a magnetic snaps if you're gonna be putting, you know, credit cards in there. Usually magnets, credit cards, we try to keep them away from each other. But this is what I'll be using. And then I have the dies to go with that. For my thread, I have a Tex 45 weight. Any thread's gonna be fine here, whatever you're comfortable working with. For the bobbin thread, I have a Gutermann. Just remember the bobbin thread will be seen on the back side. So if you have like a crazy color thread that you don't want to be seen, go ahead and change that out now. And then I have my seam ripper and stiletto combo. This here is an X-Acto knife. An X-Acto knife just really helps cut out those details. I've already cut out most of them, but I will show you a little bit more. Next, you're gonna need some temporary basting spray. So this 505 spray is great for that. You can sew over this, it's fantastic. As always, I have my little 1" by 6" ruler, a lighter. The needles I'm using today are Microtex 8012. Depending on your material, you might wanna use 9014. Double-sided tape, wash away double-sided tape, something you can sew over. It's gonna be very helpful. And as always, a whole bunch of clips. Okay, so let's do some prep work. As you can see on the exterior piece, I did prepare most of this. I cut out this center box using this template, so you just can lay it over and then trace and cut it out. I like to use an X-Acto knife for that. And then I used my hole punch. I don't know if you can see, but on here there are holes marked for your card slots. So I marked the hole placement on my vinyl, and then I used my hole punch here to punch out the holes where they are. So now what I'm gonna do is grab my X-Acto knife, and I'm gonna use a straight edge. So it can be a ruler or the template's even good, as long as it's a straight edge that you can have control over, not paper here. And I'm just going to line up my straight edge with one of the dots on the top and the other dot on the, so these dots are the holes that I punched already. And so I wanna make sure the straight edge is going through the center of each of those holes. And then I'm gonna use my X-Acto knife and just slice from hole to hole. And just be very careful as you do that. You don't want to go beyond those holes that you punched out. So do this for all 3 card slot slits. All right, another little prep step that I kind of changed on the exterior is the placement for the snap. So on the template, the placement for the snap is right below the 3rd card slot. I don't know if you can see this, but it's right below the 3rd card slot. My snap tab is quite a bit longer than what the pattern suggests. So if I were to place mine right there, I mean, I could just get the design, but I'm gonna have a lot overhanging. And it would still work. That's what I did on the first version. So as you can see on this one, that's exactly what I did. My design's up here. I kept the snap where it is. I mean, it turned out perfect. So that's definitely an option. I just wanna try something a little different today. So for today, what I actually want is, I want this to come down further. So I'm gonna have it come down like this. And so it just kind of goes over a little bit. So for the placement, for the snap on the bottom, I measured 1 inch up from the bottom edge. So to make that easier, just get a straight edge, a ruler, something like that. Find the marking for the original placement, and that way you know where it needs to go on this line right here. And then I just measured 1 inch from the bottom, and that's where the snap is gonna be. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, then you know. Okay, so this is cut. Now let's talk about cutting the opening on the lining. There are a lot of different options for this. What you could do is just cut out a rectangle and use heat transfer vinyl. So instead of using waterproof canvas or fabric, you could use heat transfer vinyl, cut this out, cut out the hole for here, and then just use an iron and heat it onto the back. That's probably the best method, honestly. That is the best method. But we're gonna go with the waterproof canvas because I already got it cut out. So I'm gonna look at the back of the waterproof canvas. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna take the template that I have. So if you have the paper template, this will work too. But I'm gonna take the template that I have and I'm gonna kind of center it over it. Now the clear template's gonna be easier because I can see through it, because the lining is not the same size as the exterior. So I have a little bit of an overhang, about between 1/8 and 1/4 inch overhang from the exterior and the lining. But I'm just centering it so I can see the hole right here. And then I'm gonna use a fabric marking tool. And this is super willy-nilly, but I'm just gonna mark a line going down the center of this rectangle. I know it's not straight or perfect. That's okay. Doesn't have to be. And then I'm gonna go from those corners on the short edges, and I'm just gonna have them come up to meet that line. For some reason, my fingers cannot work on the right side over here. I cannot get it straight. That's funny. All right. I mean, that's pretty messy looking, but it will work. It will be fine. It's folded over anyways. So I'm gonna grab my seam ripper, and I'm just gonna gently rip right along that. And then I'm gonna grab my scissors, and I'm gonna cut along this center straight line to the tip of my triangles. And don't forget that the template for the lining has this already marked on it, so if you want to just use that, you can. I don't know if I'm being more difficult or if I'm making it easier. I don't know. All right, but this doesn't have to be perfect, but it does. You do need to take your time with this, because if you make it too big, then when you sew the zipper on, you're not going to catch this, and that's going to be a mess. So you want to make sure it's not too big. So now what I'm going to do, remember this is the wrong side of my material. I'm going to grab some double-sided tape. And this is just because I'm using waterproof canvas. If you're using quilt cotton, you can iron it. You can honestly just iron this waterproof canvas as well, but I don't really need to. So I'm going to grab some double-sided tape, and I'm going to put it along the long edges of that opening that we just cut. And this lightweight waterproof canvas is nice because when you finger press it, it kind of, it's like paper almost. It wants to stay in place. Now it doesn't stay perfectly like paper, but it wants to. My tape, however, does not want to stick to it. So I'm going to fold this back. Now be careful with this, okay? Only fold it back 1/4 inch, not more. Let's do this for both the long sides. I'm gonna fold the other edge back as well. I'm also gonna hit this with the iron, just to make sure it stays. So I folded those both back, and I'm going to fold these little triangle sides back as well. And with waterproof canvas, when you iron it, you just want to make sure you iron it from the front, not from the back. The back usually has some sort of like a plasticky coating on it, and you don't want that on your iron. So I'm just going to make sure these are pushed back on the back, and I'm looking at the front now. And if you want, before you really go nuts with this, grab your template, lay it over it, and make sure that that hole that you have here, the rectangle in your lining, make sure it's not too big. Make sure it's not extending past the long edges here by like 1/2 inch or something, because then when we sew the zipper on, you're not going to catch the lining, and it's all just going to come apart inside of your wallet, which would be tragic. So I'm just pushing it down. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It is going to be the inside of this wallet, but it does need to work properly. So I'm just heating it up real quick. And what I'm going to do after it's hot, I'm going to stick this template on top, and as it cools, it'll cool very, very flat. All right, so the lining is prepped. I'm just going to put that to the side, and I'm going to do a little bit more prep work on my exterior panel before we really get started. So before we work on the card slots, I think I want to add my bag tag, and I think I'm also going to do the ID pocket. So let's do the ID pocket first, because that requires a little bit of prep. So this exterior piece here, this little frame for the ID pocket, the outer part of it is cut at 3 inches by 4 1/4 inch. Okay, I rounded the bottom corners just because why not? You don't need to, you can just make it a rectangle. I didn't round the bottom corners the first time I did this. This inner rectangle for the clear opening, this is 2 1/8 by 3 1/8. So that's how big this rectangle is in the middle. And you can see it's just under 1/2 inch along the sides and the bottom, but the top has a little bit more. The reason we have a little bit more space on the top is because I am going to actually fold down this top edge so that it's not a raw edge, because you're gonna be putting stuff in and out a lot, and I think it'll just last longer if we do that. So we're gonna actually fold down this top edge. So this clear piece of vinyl I'm using is 2 5/8 inch wide by 3 5/8 inch wide. It honestly just needs to be a little bit smaller than this outer cut for your vinyl, because we don't want it bulking up in the seams, right? We want it to be stitched in place, but we want it to be like this. All right, so to do this, first thing we're gonna do is we're going to attach the clear vinyl to the frame. So I'm gonna grab my double-sided tape, and I'm going to tape right along the inner cutout of my vinyl frame. So you can apply the tape to all 4 inner edges or just the 2 longer ones, that'll work as well. And then remove the paper from it, and then take your clear vinyl and lay your clear vinyl so that it has about the same amount of overhang on all 4 sides, and it attaches to that tape. There we go. If it's a little skewed to one side or the other, that's okay, as long as it completely covers that little window. So when we flip it over to the right side, it looks nice and neat. So now let's go to the sewing machine, and we're gonna top stitch along the inner cutout edge for our window at 1/8 inch seam allowance, and that's gonna secure the clear vinyl to the frame. So once you have the stitch in place, just check the back and make sure all 4 edges of your clear vinyl have been caught. That's the biggest thing here. All 4 edges need to be caught in the stitching. I like to leave the tails really long, so my top threads are nice and long, my bobbin threads are nice and long. And what I do is I just pull the bobbin threads to the back, use a stiletto or even a needle, anything small and sharp, and just pull those top threads to the back. I mean, you could just back stitch at the beginning and the end, that's fine as well, but this just, it looks a little bit cleaner. So then you have all 4 threads on the back, and all you have to do is just double them up, 2 and 2, and then triple knot them. So knot them all together. And then once you have them knotted, go ahead and cut the threads with your scissors. And then what I do, you don't have to do this, but what I do is I burn the little tails by pulling the material away from them, and then I just carefully melt them. So honestly, if you're gonna do this, you should probably start your stitching on one of the bottom corners, so that way you don't have to worry about the cards rubbing against this over and over again. Because if you're taking a card in and out of this pocket a lot, over time it might rip this little knot right here. So something to think about. So now the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna fold down this top edge here, and I'm just gonna fold it down about 1/4 inch. Honestly, my guideline right now is the stitching that I just made. I'm gonna fold it down to meet that stitching. Grab some clips to clip it in place. I know that this little add-on is a bit willy-nilly. I apologize. I'm not a pattern writer, but I like to hack things on sometimes. Okay, so now I'm going to sew along this folded edge at 1/8 inch seam allowance, and once again I'm going to leave the tails really long. And then just like before, I'm going to gently pull on the bobbin thread until I see the little loop of the top thread, and I'm just going to pull those back. So I'm going to have 2 threads on each side here, just be gentle, and then I'll triple knot each edge. And then I will trim these threads down and use my lighter to very carefully burn the little tails so that it's nice and clean. Okay, so now we have our ID window all ready to go. So if you'd like, you can go ahead and add that now. So I'm just gonna use my eyeballs here, guys. I'm gonna eyeball where to put this. So I'm trying to center it between the edge of this opening for the zipper and also the left edge over here. I know I want the top to go on the top just like the card slot slits over here, so you can use the top on both of them. And I think I'll use double-sided tape for this. I think that's gonna be easier. So I'm gonna add some double-sided tape on the sides, but not all the way up to the top. So just like on the most of the lower parts of the side here. And this double-sided tape too, if you have this in place and you start using it and you're like, man, I can feel that tape in there, you can actually reach in and just kind of rip the tape out from inside the pocket. So I'm gonna add it on the bottom as well. Okay, so now I'm gonna remove the paper from the tape. You could also just use some regular tape and tape on top of this just to tape it down. You just wanna hold it down. You don't want it moving around on you when you're stitching it in place. Okay, so again, just eyeballing it. This is a nice small section, so you should be able to eyeball it. I like that, it's cool. It's like little stars with the balloons in the back. That's neat. I like that. Let me see, is it straight? It's never straight. My stuff is never straight. But it's good. So now I'm going to sew along the side, the bottom, and the other side. I'm gonna backstitch at the beginning and the end, and I'm also gonna leave the tails long, but you're not sewing over this top edge, this top folded edge, right? You're just gonna go off the sides. And it is good to start past the top edge, so past on just the vinyl, and then go on. Don't start, you know, below the top stitching right here on your fold overs. Past it. Well, I think that looks adorable. So I'm gonna flip it over and just like we've been doing, pull on the bobbin threads, pull the top threads to the back, and triple knot them. You don't have to burn these ones though, because it will be covered up by the lining. All right, so the pocket is in place. Now I'm going to attach my bag tag. Again, this is all just little polishing. So I'm gonna add some double-sided tape to the back of my tag, just like that. And then I'm lining it up about 1/2 inch below this bottom slit and centered on that card slit. Now again, remember, my position for my snap is much lower than the pattern suggests. So if you have your position for your snap up higher and you want to use your tag, I suggest putting it down lower below that. That's what I did on the first version. So now I'm just gonna go top stitch along all 4 edges of my tag. And you guessed it, I left my tails nice and long so that I could pull them back and triple knot them on the back side. Okay, my exterior is all good to go. Now let's do some card slots. So on the back, you're gonna grab some double-sided tape and you're gonna add a piece of double-sided tape 1/2 inch from the bottom edge here. And then you're gonna also add some right underneath each slit for card slots. So 1, 2, 3. And then we're gonna add another one just above the top card slot. So start with the bottom. Your little pieces here should be about 2 inches long, 1/2 inch from the bottom, and then just put them right underneath each slit. And then the last piece of tape goes about 1/2 inch above the top slit. So remove the tape underneath the bottom slit first. There we go. And then take your material for your card slot and you're gonna lay it right side down and you're just going to line it up upside down, okay? So it's upside down, line it up so that it covers both of the dots. It's gonna just cover both the dots, but it needs to cover both of your holes here and line up with the bottom edge of your tape. And what I like to do is when I push down on it, I kind of flatten it out, make sure it's straight. That's not straight. And I make sure it's covering all of the dots going up, and it is. Okay, so now let's flip this over and go to the sewing machine, and we're gonna top stitch right along this bottom edge at an 1/8 inch seam allowance. We're top stitching on the bottom part of that slit, okay? And I just go from the bottom of the circle over to the bottom of the other punched hole. And I'm not back stitching at the beginning and the end of any of these, so all of these will be tied. Yes, tying it takes a little bit more time, but it looks really good. I'm just telling you, if you've been putting it off, give it a try. It looks really nice. So I'm just gonna pull the top threads on each one of these and triple knot them. No melting or anything like that. None of that's required. So once that's sewn on, remove the paper from the tape on the bottom edge here. and you're gonna fold this strip back. So as you fold it back, give it a nice press right along that bottom edge where you just sewed. Keep it straight and push it down onto that double-sided tape, okay? So make sure this is pressed nice. If you're using the waterproof canvas, this is really easy. If you're using ribbon or something like that, this should also be pretty good. We press that down, and now we're gonna take the paper off of the tape on the middle slit, and we're gonna fold our little skinny piece here right side up. Make sure it stays attached. That's my biggest problem. Make sure it stays attached to the tape and just keep it straight as you pull it up. Keep it nice and straight, pull it up, and flatten it out. And so it should be attached to that tape now on the middle slit. Make sure, once again, it's covering the holes that you punched on both sides, and then flip it over. And now we're gonna go top stitch right underneath that middle slit at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, just like we did on the bottom one. So I'm gonna pull all the threads to the back and knot them. All right, so now grab your ruler and measure 1/2 of an inch up from this bottom folded edge down here. So this one all the way on the bottom, 1/2 of an inch up, and then put another piece of tape there. Remove the paper from that. And now fold your ribbon back and press it really nicely and cleanly right along that slit you just sewed, so it's nice and straight. Keep it all straight, so lining it up with the edges here, and press it back onto that tape. Just like that. Now let's take the paper off of the tape right underneath the top slit, so that first slot, and we're gonna fold this back up. Make sure the tape is holding it down here on the bottom. If it's not, just press it with your fingers. And then push the whole thing up. Again, keeping everything straight. You're covering the holes you punched out, nice and straight and neat. Flip it over, and now we're gonna top stitch right beneath this top edge at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then I will knot the threads on the back. So once again, measure 1/2 of an inch up, this time from the top folded edge on the bottom here, and then put a piece of double-sided tape there. Then remove the paper. Again, I like to fold it and kind of press it with my fingers right underneath that sewn edge first, and then I make sure it's all lined up straight as I push it all back down. Smush it down, and then remove the paper from the tape on the very top edge here. That's just a little bit over your top slit. Make sure it stays taped down here on the bottom. If not, use your fingers to hold it down and press it all up like that. Now, the pattern has you kind of just end it there and then trim it down. I do worry that this will come undone at some point, so I also like to top stitch on the top edge of my slit here by about an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, so just right along the top edge of the slit. And I like to do that because I am going to trim down this bit here so that it won't be caught in the seam allowance in the end. Now, if you're planning on it being in the seam allowance in the end, then you don't have to sew it down or anything. All right, once that's done, I'm just going to trim down the material on the top here. There we go. So now that the card slot's done, let's go ahead and attach the hardware. So we're gonna do the snap on both the tab and also beneath them. So you can just pull these out of the way like that. So we want to attach the male end of the metal snap on the exterior piece, and we want to attach the female end on our flap here. Now, I could have probably designed this flap a little bit better, so I actually had a little tab here underneath it. I didn't think about that. I'm just going to mark a spot that's centered on the bottom of this. Other tabs will have a little nub down here, which is specifically for the hardware. I didn't do that when I was messing with this, but it should still work. So I'm going to install the female end on here. So the first thing I want to do is punch a hole right where I marked that dot. So let me just kind of eyeball this. So I want to see this hole is going to go where the hole is punched on my wallet. Yeah, that'll look nice. So the female end has a cap and it has like a little donut. So the cap part goes on the top like that, and then the donut part goes on the back of it. And just make sure you have the right dies that go with that. Insert it into your press and push down. Okay, so there's that. And now we're going to do the male end over here. You know, as many times as I've done this, you would think I know the terms for these pieces by now, but I don't. I have the long thing and the short thing. So the long piece of the male end goes on the back side, and it goes up through the hole, and the short piece will go on top of it. Now, you will need to change out your dies, both the top and the bottom for this. And if you're interested in more information on these dies and this rivet press, I do have a video going over it in detail. So I'm just going to use my press to press this down. All right, so not totally centered, but that's okay. It's okay. It's a little wonky. Story of my life. But the hardware is now installed for the snap, so that's good. Okay, so let's get this zipper installed. So let's flip over our exterior. So we're looking at the wrong side. And we're gonna add double-sided tape along the long edges and the short edges, right along the edges of the opening for our zipper. Now the thing about the zipper is that we're going to kind of put it in position and get it ready, but we're not gonna sew it right away. We are going to try to sew the exterior, the zipper, and the lining all together. So if you need to use a lot of tape here, now's the time to do it. And then remove the paper from your tape. And the one big piece of advice is make sure when you install this, the zipper, when it's closed, as it's closing, it's gonna go towards the top. So make sure you set it like that. So I'm gonna lay my zipper right side up, and then I'm gonna take my unit here, and I'm going to center it on my zipper tape. And I like to have my zipper tape longer than it needs to be. And I'm just kind of pushing it down right here where I can see it centered. And then I'll pull my zipper pull up like that. And the nice thing with this tape is if it's not right, you just move it around. You just try to get the zipper coils to be as straight as possible going through this. There we go. And like you can see, my zipper tape is much longer than it needs to be. I'm going to leave that for now. I'm going to do the rest of it with it too long. All right, before we sew that on, we are going to attach our lining. So take your lining and lay it wrong side up. Now's the time to grab your spray adhesive, and you're gonna spray the back of your lining really well. Or if you're using heat transfer vinyl, you can fuse that on. So I try to be pretty generous with the glue. I'm gonna flip over my exterior, so I'm looking at the wrong side of it. And I'm going to center this and really make sure I've got the zipper in the middle of that pocket. There we go. And then also make sure you're not getting too close to any of the edges. Pull this down a little bit. And all of this glue is easy to like unstick and restick. So I'm just gonna push this over like that. There we go. There we go. All right, so I have this glued in place. Perfect. Okay, so now that I have my zipper taped to my exterior, I have my lining glued in place. It's not gonna stay forever, but it'll stay for a little bit. Now I'm gonna go top stitch around this rectangle right here, around the zipper, at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I am gonna back stitch over the ends of the zipper coils just to make sure while we're using it, they don't rip at any point. And the biggest thing I wanna make sure of is that I catch the lining. That's the hardest part here, is making sure you catch the lining. So if you wanna go just a little bit bigger than 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, that would be good too. You don't have to get really close to the edge. Go a little bit bigger than you think you might need to go. All right, so, moment of truth. Oh yes, we caught it. We caught all, we almost didn't catch it over here on the side. That hole right there, that's such a bugger. I would probably say that's the hardest part of this whole pattern, is making sure this hole here isn't too big and you don't catch the lining. That's, just gotta be careful. So again, I left the tails long, even though I did still backstitch over the zipper. I'm gonna pull my top threads to the back, and I'm gonna knot them, cut them, burn them. And then now that I have this sewn in place as well, I am going to trim down my zipper tape. I'm not gonna trim it really close to the edge inside here. I'm just gonna trim it down so that it's shorter than the lining by just a bit. Okay, everything looks good to go. Now we're gonna take our strap, we're gonna attach it just like this. And make sure it's straight as you can get it, considering mine's not centered. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the top edge here, and you're gonna fold it back And I like to leave just like a tiny bit of slack on the top. It's not like hugging the top edge. It's just folded with a tiny bit of give up there. And then you grab your clips and you're gonna clip this in place. But this is the tricky part. You just wanna clip the back edge. So I kind of like slide my clip over it and then underneath that fold over tab. There we go, make sure I got it. Okay, and then you're gonna lift the tab up because when we stitch all this together, we wanna stitch the tab down, but we don't wanna stitch it down folded. We wanna stitch it down straight up. And honestly, what I do is I just go real quick and I'm gonna just stitch this tab down. I'm okay doing that. I'll go over it again when we stitch it all together, but I cannot keep this thing in place. I mean, you can see it's already kind of crooked. I can't keep it in place and then prep the rest of it. So I'm just gonna stitch this down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance real quick. All right, before I finish it up, let me just check this. I'm gonna snap that down like that. And then when it's all, okay, that should be good. That looks good. You just wanna make sure. So let's unsnap it. And I'm going to, just like before, triple knot all this. You don't have to, honestly. You could baste this down and then remove the basting stitches if you'd like, because you're just gonna sew over this again anyways. But just for a little bit of extra security, I am going to knot all this in place so I don't have to worry about this strap moving around on me. Okay, so if your lining is kind of coming up, just make sure it's all smushed down. If you need to add some more glue, go ahead and add some more glue. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold our whole pocket pal in half, lining sides together, and line up all the edges really well. So I like to start with the little angled corners here. I get those matched up first. And then I'll go along the straight edges. And then over here you can see the lining kind of bubbles up. Just make sure you push your finger in there and straighten it out. And then clip along the top and bottom edges. You want to make sure you cut your zipper tape enough because we do need to be able to sew right along this corner here. And if your zipper tape is too long, you're not going to be able to. So if you need to, you can unclip this and then trim your zipper tape down some more. That's fine. Okay, and I like to pinch really tight at these top corners and add clips there. And now, I mean, you might have noticed I've been using a zipper foot this whole time. I just like to use a zipper foot with sticky vinyl. I feel like it's easier. But if you haven't been using a zipper foot, now I do suggest you put a zipper foot on because right here, getting close to this zipper over here is going to be tricky without a zipper foot. And you don't want it like, blah, 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 blah. You've done too much work. You've done too much work. A zipper foot's going to give you a cleaner finish. So we're going to go to the sewing machine now. And starting at one corner, we're going to go all the way around sewing at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I do suggest backstitching at the beginning and the end, but also leave the tails long. Do both, because we really want this to be secure. Oh, it's looking so good. I love these things. They're so cute. Okay, so now on the back, front, wherever, you could actually also, if you want to be really clever, you can pull these threads through the two pieces of vinyl and knot them kind of inside. I've never had luck with that. I just don't think my skill set is to that level yet. But I am going to do my best to knot them on the back side here, which is where the clear pocket is, and burn them and clean them up as best I can. That looks so cute. I love that. So what you can do now is if you've got some edges, when you're sewing this, sometimes these edges will kind of separate. So if you've got some edges that are separated, go ahead and trim those down. I actually got pretty lucky this time. That looks pretty good. Especially if you're going to edge coat it, you want to make sure that the edges are completely flush. And then you can go ahead and add the edge coating. I might add edge coating to this at a later date. We'll see. But I think this turned out very, very cute. So what do you guys think? I obviously love it. So here's the version with the tab a little bit longer. Here's the version with the tab where it's located on the pattern. I think both are great. I love both of them, honestly. Either one, it just depends on what you're using. If you're using a longer tab with a lot of designs or anything, but these are cute. These are really cute. And I love the size of it. Now, I have adored the purse pal. Obviously, we've made it like twice on this channel already. But I really love the size of this pocket pal. Like, I do think I could put this in my back pocket. I don't have back pockets right now. But I do think I could fit this in like the jeans pocket. So I love this size. Personally, I like this size a little bit better than the bigger purse pal size, especially for travel. So you can see on this one, you could just add another little key ring to the top. I don't think I have one. Let me see. Actually, you know what I do have that will go with this? These little little OklaRoots flashlights. I could probably attach that because they have a little keychain on them. So I'm just gonna kind of curl up my design, smush it in there carefully. There we go. Oh yeah, that looks cute. Snap it back down. There we go. Look at that. It still needs a clip. I know, it still needs a little clip, doesn't it? I'll find one, a little clip. And now I have a flashlight, and that is a fun little combo. I love that. So this is just it's such a fun pattern. It's quick. You can be so creative with it. I don't know. I absolutely love it. And we all have scraps. If you work with vinyl, you've got vinyl scraps that are definitely big enough to do this. How fun. I hope you love making these as much as I do. Thank you to Linds, as always, for allowing me to use your patterns on my channel. We all know how much I love Linds. Make sure you go check out her channel. Check out her social media, especially if you want really creative ideas on ways to modify her patterns. Go check out her social media. You will be very excited. I hope that you're having a great day. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys.